Hello everyone, welcome to Lukmaan IAS. Today we are going to have the Hindu newspaper analysis dated 21st of December 2023. In today's newspaper analysis, we are going to cover a mapping topic and then we are going to cover the most important articles from the newspaper. So in the newspaper today there were many articles from different sections. So some of the topics are from Indian polity, other are from internal security. Then there is a topic, let's say, from environment and ecology section. There are topics from international relations, and also there are some areas of importance that we have included under, let's say, news, like places in news. So we are going to discuss that about that as well. So let us quickly see the list of articles that we are going to cover in today's newspaper analysis. So these are the important articles that we have selected for discussion today. So let us discuss the first topic, which is a mapping topic. All right. So today there is an article in the editorial section that talks about Egypt. Okay, we are going to discuss in detail about that. Let's say, in that article once we go there. But Egypt is in news, and Egypt is in news for multiple reasons. One of the reason is that, all the help or humanitarian assistance that are being provided to Gaza Strip, that are being provided to Palestinian people, they are provided through corridors from Egypt, right? So that's why also Egyptian borders are important. Apart from this, Suez Canal has been in news. For that reason also Egypt becomes important, and recently a presidential election was held, right? So presidential election was held in Egypt. So for that reason also it is important. So there are many news related to Egypt from time to time. So that's why we have thought of discussing the Egypt as a country. We are going to discuss about the physical features, and also we are going to discuss about some, let's say, geopolitical issues related to Egypt. So let us quickly understand where is Egypt located. So in this map, if we see the, let's say, shaded region, yellow shaded region, this is Egypt. Okay, this is the border of Egypt. This is Egypt. Now here we need to understand that Egypt is an African country. Okay, so Egypt is located in Africa. It is located in northeast Africa. Which part of Africa? It is located in northeast Africa. Northeast of Africa. Now Egypt shares its land borders with some of the countries, and also it shares its maritime border, right, with Mediterranean Sea. As we can see, just to the top of Egypt we have Mediterranean Sea, and to the right of Egypt, to the east of Egypt, we have Red Sea, right? And here we are going to look into the Gulf of Aqaba also. We are going to understand the Gulf of Suez. We will understand about Suez Canal. We will understand about Sinai Peninsula. So these are some of the regions that becomes important. So let us see this map, which is a detailed map of Egypt, right? It is a detailed map of Egypt. Now, if we see, right, to the east of Egypt, we have Red Sea. It is important for you to note that Egypt shares its maritime border with Red Sea. Apart from this, over here, there is a Gulf, right? This is a Gulf, and this Gulf is known as Gulf of Suez. You see, Gulf of Suez is over here. Then this particular region is known as Sinai Peninsula. It is a peninsula. Its name is Sinai Peninsula. Then this particular region is known as Gulf of Aqaba. What? Gulf of Aqaba. Gulf of Aqaba to the right, Gulf of Suez to the left, right? And then there is a canal, right? It is a man-made canal, and this canal is known as Suez Canal, and Suez Canal remains in news, right? Throughout the year it remains in news. Why? Because it is one of the most busiest sea routes through which, let's say, many cargo ships, maritime vessels pass, right, through which it passes. So this is the reason why Sinai Peninsula remains in news. Apart from this, let's say here we need to understand about the Suez Canal. Suez Canal we discussed, right? Suez Canal remains in news. So this is the thing. So we have seen some of the maritime regions. So Red Sea, Mediterranean Sea, Gulf of Aqaba, Gulf of Suez, right? Suez Canal, these are important. Apart from this Sinai Peninsula that we see over here, it is a, let's say, territory of Egypt. It belongs to Egypt. This is the thing. Now let us understand about the name of countries with which Egypt shares borders. Okay, so if we see this map over here, right, if we see this map over here, so like here we see Libya. This particular country, this country is Libya, 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 right, Libya. Then if we see this particular country just to the south, this is Sudan. Okay, this particular country is Sudan. So Egypt shares its border with Libya, it shares its border with Sudan. And then if we talk about this particular region, which is, let's say, Middle East region, right, or Gulf countries, over here with Middle East region, it shares, let's say, some of its border with Jordan, let's say, like over here it shares border, and it also shares border with Israel. Egypt shares its border with Israel also, here we see. And here with Saudi Arabia, there is very less connect with Egypt, right? Saudi Arabia means, like, through Gulf of Aqaba, it does share its maritime border. Gulf of Aqaba is shared by Saudi Arabia as well as, let's say, Egyptian side. But the thing is, it shares its border with Jordan, a very less amount of it. Then it shares its border with Israel as well. So this is the thing. And in Egypt, there is a very important river. What is the name of that river? Name of that river is this is the river. It is known as Nile River. Okay, Nile River. You see, Nile River flows through the eastern portion of Egypt, right, from north to south. I mean, like, this is a very long river. This river flows through entire Egypt. This is the thing. And in Egypt, we have, let's say, some other regions also. So these are known as the Valley of Kings, like Dakhla, Oasis, etc. But the thing is, Nile River is important. Nile River flows, let's say, parallel to this Red Sea, as we can see. You see, this is the thing. So with this, let us now quickly move to the first editorial topic of the day. And so, like, before that, we have another topic. This topic was there in the front page of today's newspaper. This is a very important topic. Why it becomes important? Because through this topic, we are going to understand about some of the criminal law bills, right? Some of the criminal law bills. So it says Lok Sabha passes bills to replace British era criminal laws. So let us quickly understand about this, right? We will understand about this topic. Topic number 1 for the day, Lok Sabha. Okay, so Lok Sabha passes bills to replace British era criminal laws. British era criminal laws. Okay, so this particular topic, why it is important, what is the relevance of this topic? Now this topic is important under GS paper 2 of the mains exam. Okay, GS paper 2 of the mains exam, and this is important under Indian polity section. Okay, so you read Indian polity, constitution, governance every day, right? And this is one of the most important, let's say, like, topics that is in news. So here we are going to talk about British era criminal laws. Okay, so when we talk about British era criminal laws, let us quickly discuss about what are British era criminal laws. British era criminal laws. So in India, let's say, like, we have 3 criminal laws that are, let's say, are functioning, that are in place, and these three criminal laws are together known as British era criminal laws. So what are they? Number 1 is Indian Penal Code. Okay, number 1 is Indian Penal Code. Indian Penal Code of 1860. So this is one of the British era thing. Second is Indian Evidence Act 1872. Second is Indian Evidence Act 1872. Third British era criminal law that we have is known as Code of Criminal Procedure. This is Code of Criminal Procedure. Okay, Code of Criminal Procedure. This is of 1898. Okay, 1898. So these are three criminal laws that are in place in India at this point of time. So what Government of India has decided? Government of India has decided to, let's say, do away with the British era criminal laws, and they have decided to come up with Indian laws. Okay, they have decided to come up with Indian laws. So let us discuss about what are these Indian laws. Okay, what are these Indian criminal laws? Like, they are also Indian criminal laws, but these laws were enacted, right, during the time of the Britishers. So when Britishers were there, 1860, 1872, 1898, that time these laws were enacted. Okay, so that time, long back, these acts were enacted. But the thing is, now what they are going to do, they are going to replace these acts with new act. So which are those new act? We are going to discuss about them. Number one, okay, number one is they have now come up with this Indian Penal Code to replace this. They are now coming up with Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. Okay, it is known as Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. In short, it is known as BNS, Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita of 2023. Then they want to replace this one, like Indian Evidence Act, with a new, let's say, bill, which is known as Bharatiya Sakshya. Bharatiya Sakshya, in short, BS. Now, the third will be replaced. This one will be replaced by another act which is known as Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita. Okay, it is known as Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita. Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita, right? So these are three laws that the Government of India has tabled in the Parliament. They have got it passed through the Lok Sabha, and these three laws are going to replace these three existing criminal laws. Okay, they are going to replace the existing criminal laws, and these existing criminal laws that the Government of India earlier had, right? So now they are saying, the present government is saying that they truly represents, okay, they truly represent the Indianization bid, okay, Indianization of criminal laws, okay, Indianization of criminal laws. This is the thing. So this is what the present government is saying, that, like, we are going to come up with these bills which are going to replace this thing. They are not only renaming these laws. Remember, they are not only renaming. They have, let's say, like, if you talk about Indian Penal Code, in Indian Penal Code, there is to be different sections. Let's say, like, like, for example, offenses against the body, offenses against the state, right, and fraud related offenses. So, like, they have categorized that way. But here they have, let's say, like, they are changing the sections also. They are changing the constituents of those sections as well. Okay, so these three bills have been earlier introduced in the Parliament, but when it was earlier introduced in the Parliament, the opposition member parties, they protested against it. They have said that, like, in these bills, let's say, these bills do not represent the true spirit of Indian, let's say, like, Indian society. So that's why they have suggested many changes. There were even, let's say, grammatical errors in the previous bills that were there. So these three bills have gone through the Parliamentary Standing Committee, and some of the suggestions that were earlier given by the opposition member parties, they have been included, and now from the Lok Sabha it got passed. Now it will go to the Rajya Sabha. Then once it gets passed by the Rajya Sabha, then it will go to the, let's say, President of India for signature. So when we talk about this bill, right, when we talk about this bill, these three bills, they are not constitutional bills. I mean, like they do not change the Constitution of India. They do not amend the Constitution of India. Apart from this, they are not money bills. So the thing is, if these bills have to be passed from the Lok Sabha or from the Rajya Sabha, they need a simple majority. Okay, you need to remember, they need a simple majority for their passing through the parliament. And since they need a simple majority, so from the parliament they have got it passed. And in this article they have mentioned that, like, since recently there was a security breach in the new parliament building, some 2 persons have entered into the, let's say, like, Lok Sabha from the visitors gallery, and they have thrown out, let's say, canisters from where gases, let's say yellow gases, came out. So the thing is, there was a security breach and many opposition member parties protested against it, and a huge number of people have been suspended from the parliament, right? Apart from those parliamentary business, but the thing is, like, the present government does have sufficient strength to get sufficient number of, let's say, MPs, member of parliaments, to get these bills passed. So they got it passed through the Lok Sabha. It got passed through a voice vote. Okay. So now here let us understand about the concept of the Parliament of India. Okay. Let us understand the concept of the Parliament of India. So the thing is, in India we have a parliament, and this parliament consists of 3 things. Okay, it consists of 3 important pillars. Okay, 3 important pillars. Number 1 is the President of India is an important and integral part of the Parliament of India. Okay, President of India is an integral part of the Parliament of India. Then let's say, like, we have Rajya Sabha. Okay, we have Rajya Sabha, right? And then we have Lok Sabha. Lok Sabha, right? Rajya Sabha is, Lok Sabha is known as House of the Commons. Rajya Sabha is known as the House of the States, or let's say, like, Council of States, like that. So this is the thing. What is there? President of India, Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha, they together form the Parliament of India. And in the, like, if a bill is to be passed through the Parliament of India, they have to be separately passed, right? From each house of the parliament, they have to be passed through the Lok Sabha, they have to be passed through the Rajya Sabha, and then the President of India has to give assent to that bill for that bill to become an act. It is not mandatory that to all the bills that are passed by both the houses, President of India will give, let's say, his assent. So President of India does have some kind of discretionary power, does have certain authority, either to give his assent or to withhold the assent, means like reject the bill, or to send back those bills for reconsideration of the houses, or let's say, like, so this is the thing. So these are some of the things that the President of India has. So the thing is, at this point of time, if we talk about this particular bill, right, if we talk about these laws can be passed through the parliament. These laws can be passed through the parliament through a simple majority. Why through a simple majority? Because they are not constitution amendment bills, they are not money bills, right? So they need a simple majority. So it has to be passed through the Lok Sabha, through the Rajya Sabha, then it will be passed by the President of India. Only then it will become an act. Okay, so as of now, these are bills, right? They have not become an act. Later on, it can become an act. Okay. So having understood this, let us now quickly move to another article. Okay, I have discussed about both the pages. One was in page number 1 and other was in page number 8, page number 14. Okay, then we have another article. This article says outcome of the COP28 climate summit. So this particular topic is important under environment and ecology. And why it is important? Because recently there was a climate summit that was held in Dubai. So Dubai is located in United Arab Emirates, and like when the climate summit has happened, they have come up with important outcomes. There were many important outcomes of the Dubai climate summit. Today we are going to discuss about those important outcomes, and also we are going to discuss about Dubai consensus, which is an agreement that were agreed by all the member countries of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. All those countries that have participated in the climate summit. Okay, so we are going to discuss about what are the outcomes of this summit, right, in today's discussion. So let's now quickly understand this topic. This is topic number 2. It says outcome of the COP28 climate summit. Outcomes of the COP28 climate summit. So let us quickly have a brief background to this climate summit, right? Let us understand a brief background of this climate summit, okay? Background, or let's say historical aspects related to this climate summit, okay? So when we talk about the climate summit that is happening, these climate summit are happening under this particular thing, under the, let's say, auspicious of United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, right? United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. This United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change has, let's say, conducted what? Its first summit, right? It has conducted its first summit in the year of 1995, right? And the thing is, last year, now we are going to discuss about, so far after that many climate summit has happened. They have also conducted COP27, right? Last year in Marrakesh, Morocco, somewhere there, they have conducted this. Now this time what they are doing, they are conducting COP28. Basically they have conducted it in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. So this is the latest summit that has happened in the year of 2023. And what the United Nations Framework Convention on climate change does, basically they conduct the summit every year, right? This summit happens every year, right? This summit happens every year. So every year, all the member parties meet together, they discuss about how do we mitigate the climate change, how do we reduce the global warming, what actions need to be taken. So they discuss all of it. So Prakash, good morning, thank you so much for joining. All right, so they discuss about this. So we are going to discuss about what are the outcomes of COP28. What are the outcomes of COP28? So outcomes of Conference of Parties 28. So number one, first of all, we need to understand that the Conference of Parties 28, right, this has happened in Dubai, right? This has happened in Dubai. So they have come up with a Dubai consensus. They have come up with the Dubai consensus. What is Dubai consensus? Basically, this is the agreement, right? This is the agreement that all the member countries have agreed with one another. Dubai consensus is important. Apart from Dubai consensus, they have operationalized, right? Operationalized the loss and damage fund. Okay, they have operationalized the loss and damage fund. This is another important issue. Apart from this, right, what they have done, for the first time they have come up with global stocktake report. Okay, they have come up with global stocktake report in the year of 2023. So this is first global stocktake report. You need to remember. We will discuss about this global stocktake report also. We will try to understand about this report. So they have come up with this. Apart from this, in this particular Conference of Parties itself, what they have done, they have, let's say, made climate and clean air coalition. Okay, so global methane pledge was launched with renewed attention at COP28. So the thing is, there was climate and clean air coalition. What they have done, they have signed climate and clean air coalition, right? They have signed climate and clean air coalition. So they have pledged money to this also. So these are some of the, let's say, these are some of the important things related to this year's conference of parties. Okay, so we are going to discuss about histories of all of it. Good morning, thank you so much for joining. Rishabh, good morning, thank you so much. So let us discuss about these things one by one. Okay, we are going to discuss about this global stocktake report. We are going to discuss about loss and damage fund. We are going to discuss about climate and clean air coalition, and then we are going to discuss about Dubai consensus. Okay, so let us discuss each one of them quickly, right? So for example, the first topic that we are going to discuss, right, it is the global stocktake report. Global stocktake report. So what is this global stocktake report? Basically, to understand this thing, we need to understand some background associated with it. Background means how this global stocktake report was first thought about. So basically all of us have, right, basically all of us have heard about this important thing, which is, let's say, Paris Agreement. We discussed about Paris Agreement. All of us know that there was a Paris Agreement, and this Paris Agreement was outcome of a kind of conference of parties, similar conference of parties, that was held in the year of 2015. Okay, it was held in the year of 2015. So in the Paris Agreement, basically what is the outcome of the Paris Agreement? In Paris Agreement, the countries have decided, right, they have taken targets, right, or they have taken pledges. And what were the pledges? Basically pledges had two things. Number one, they discussed that like, they will not let the global warming go beyond 1.5 degrees centigrade as compared to pre-industrial level. Okay, I have just written PIL, means pre-industrial level, right? And second thing is, like, as far as practicable, if this is not met, they are not going to let the, let's say, like, global warming go beyond 2 degrees centigrade as compared to pre-industrial level, pre-industrial level. Pre-industrial level, when we discuss about this, we refer to the time period of around 1850. Okay, around 1850. So these were the, let's say, like, these were the targets that these countries have taken. So here these targets that they have taken, so they want that by the year 2100, means by the end of this century, the global warming should not increase beyond this. Okay, this is the thing. You understanding? This should not increase beyond this. So these were the pledges or targets that were taken under Paris Agreement. Second thing, in the Paris Agreement, they have also discussed, these countries have discussed among themselves that we will come up with global stocktake report. What? We are going to come up with global stocktake report. What was global stocktake report? Basically, they have thought that this global stocktake report will be released every 5 years. Every 5 years. Means like Paris Agreement was agreed by these countries in 2015, and global stocktake report will be released after 5 years of Paris Agreement. But the thing is, in 2020, we were facing COVID-19 crisis. We were facing COVID-19 pandemic. 2020 it did not happen. 21 it did not happen. 22 also it did not happen. Now we came up with this thing, with what? The global stocktake report. This is the first ever report that has been released. So what is the nature of this report? When we talk about what is the, so first aspect of this report that we discussed is background. Now let us understand the nature of the global stocktake report. What is the nature? Basically, global stocktake report is a kind of climate accounting. It talks about what pledges or targets that different countries have taken and what action they have taken to, let's say, like, meet those targets. For example, right, for example, if we talk about India, right, if we talk about India, this is just for example, okay, this is, I'm just giving you as an example. So in case of India, we have, let's say, like, we come up with intended nationally determined contributions. These are known as INDCs. So these are some of the goals, targets that we set for ourselves, that this year we are going to achieve these climate targets. For example, if we think of like we want to install these many megawatts of renewable gas, right? So that will be one of the target. We want to reduce the emission of fossil fuels. This can be another target. We want to utilize solar panels. This can be another target. We want to phase out coal-based power plants. This can be another target. So these are intended nationally determined contributions. Okay. So the thing is, these are some of the goals or targets, right? These are the goals or targets that different countries take. But how much of these targets convert into actions, right? How much of these targets convert into actions? So that is, let's say, reflected through the global Stocktake report. Okay, that is reflected through global Stocktake report. So global Stocktake report is a kind of accounting. It clearly says that these countries have taken these targets and they were not able to meet these targets, or they have achieved these targets. So this is global Stocktake report. I hope you understood about this. The next important thing that we wanted to discuss is, let's say, B, which is, right, next important thing that we want to discuss is, let's say, loss and damage fund. What? Loss and damage fund. Loss and damage fund. So what is this loss and damage fund? Basically, if we talk about history associated with this, if we talk about history related to loss and damage fund, so for the first time, loss and damage fund was thought of in COP 27, right? In COP 27, what they have done, they have conceptualized, right? They have conceptualized that there will be a loss and damage fund. But what has now happened in COP 28, now they have operationalized. What? They have operationalized the loss and damage fund. Operationalized means funding was done. Funding was done. Funding was done to this loss and damage fund. Now we need to understand about this. The loss and damage fund that was established. This loss and damage fund will be overseen, right? Will be overseen by the World Bank. It will be overseen by the World Bank. This is a very important, let's say, thing that we need to understand related to loss and damage fund. This will be overseen by the World Bank. And as of now, let us understand about how much funding was actually given to the loss and damage fund. So in this article, they clearly mention that in loss and damage fund, what they have received, they have, like, funding that they have received is, let's say, is $790 million. Okay, they have received funding of $790 million. But the thing is, what was proposed? What was proposed? Proposed, let's say, they have proposed around $100 billion to $400 billion. Okay, to $400 billion. So the proposal was a very high amount, but actually the amount of fund that was given to the loss and damage fund was very low. Okay, this is an important thing that we need to understand. Apart from this, let us understand about this particular aspect. The another, let's say, like, another aspect of this. This is C. Let's discuss. This is known as climate and clean air coalition. Okay, climate and clean air, climate and clean air coalition. So what is this basically? Again, we will go back to the history, or we will understand about the background of it. So this climate and clean air coalition was earlier proposed, right? It was earlier proposed in COP 26. Okay, so in COP 26, this is COP 28. In COP 26, what they have done, they have proposed this particular thing, and the proposal was in the nature of global methane pledge. Okay, it was in the nature of what? Global methane pledge. Global methane pledge means these countries who are member of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, these countries have together thought, what they have thought? They have together thought that like we will take a global methane pledge, we will reduce the emission of methane. What is methane? See, what is methane? CH4, right? CH4, methane. So the thing is, since methane emission happens, it also increases the global warming, it pollutes the environment, okay, it pollutes the environment. But what has happened in COP28, right, in COP28, people have converted this particular thing into climate and clean air coalition, into climate and clean air coalition, okay, they have converted into climate and clean air coalition. But what was India's stand, right? What was India's stand? We need to understand that India did not join it, right? India did not join this, okay? India did not join this climate and clean air coalition. Why? Because India focuses on carbon dioxide. Why India did not join? Because India focuses on carbon dioxide, and carbon dioxide is more potent, okay, it is more potent, means it traps, right, it traps more greenhouse gas as compared to CH4, okay, this is the thing. So Prakash has written compensation for climate impacts addressing irreversible form of global challenge, all right, launched in 2012, targets short-lived climate pollutant for mitigation. Okay, all right, so you are sharing the information related to this. So this is the thing, are you understanding this thing, that why India did not join? Because India focuses on CO2, but the thing is like this particular thing now wants to focus on CH4, right? We are already in the action mode related to this thing, what? CO2, okay? So we discussed about most of these things, and the thing is the Dubai consensus document that was released by these countries together. The Dubai document actually, let's say like, you know, this is Dubai document. Basically this particular Dubai document is an amalgamation of all these things. They have, let's say, clubbed all these things together, all right? So with this, let us now quickly move to another article, right? Let's move to another article. It says a security breach that must lead to sweeping changes, okay? This is again a very, very important article. Let's discuss. This is another topic, which is, let's say, topic number 3, a security breach. A security breach that must lead to sweeping changes. That must lead to sweeping changes. Let's discuss about this. So what is the context? Why this topic is in news? What is the context? We will understand this. And the thing is, this particular topic is important for GS paper 3, okay? If we talk about its relevance, it's important for GS paper 3 of the mains exam. It's important under internal security. It's important under internal security. So let's understand about this topic. So recently what has happened on 13th December 2023, right? Some intruders entered into the parliament, okay? Intruders entered into the parliament, entered into the Lok Sabha, okay? They have entered into the Lok Sabha. So basically 2 persons entered into the Lok Sabha, and what they have done, they have thrown canisters. I mean, like, you know, they have thrown some kind of, let's say, like, you know, canisters from where yellow gases were coming, okay? What? Yellow gases were released. So this was done when the parliament was in session, when huge number of parliamentarians were sitting over there. Okay, so this was a kind of breach of security. It was not done with a terror motive. I mean, the persons who have done, they are not terrorists, they are not from some other countries, they are Indian nationals. Why they have done it? So let us understand about motives of these people, right? The people, persons who have done. Motives. So basically, presently the Delhi police and other, let's say, like, law enforcement agencies are doing investigation. But the thing is, from media reports, what we get to know is that, like, they had issues with unemployment. What? They had issues with. So we are going to discuss about these motives. They had issues with unemployment in the country, right? Unemployment means those people who have done, they were themselves unemployed, they are educated people, and they wanted to raise their voice, right? So they tried to raise their voice somewhere else also, but, like, they thought that their voices were not being heard. So they wanted to bring forward their dissent, right? Their dissent related to unemployment and all. In a democracy, dissent is good, but the way in which it was done, it is not good. Okay, so they wanted to showcase their dissent. And not only unemployment, they were unhappy with many other things also. For example, let's say like rising rate of like in this article, basically they have mentioned about so many things related to that, like, so like these people, I mean, like, these people were trying to do, let's say, dissent, and they raised the issue of unemployment, and at the same time they were, let's say, like, they were educated people. This is another important. So these are some of the motives of these persons. But the thing is, here we need to understand that this has happened in the new parliament building. Recently, the government of India has created a new building of the parliament. It is much bigger in size as compared to the previous parliament building. And in this parliament building, there are more sitting spaces and all. However, when we talk about security thing, means, like, these people who have done, they are not terrorists themselves. But the thing is, like, these people, like these, let's say, few individuals, 2, 4, 6, whatever number of individuals, they were able to enter into parliament with canisters. They were able to throw it inside the parliament. So this raises this particular thing that, like, how can such an activity happen inside the parliament? Do we not have enough security apparatus in place, right? So the thing is, when an investigation was done, it was identified that, like, so they were trying to set the responsibility, that who is responsible for the breach of security. I mean, like, who is in charge of the security. So over here, let's say the head of the parliamentary security is the Joint Secretary Security, but the Joint Secretary Security post is vacant. Apart from this, there are the 2 posts of the chiefs of the Central Reserve Force and the Central Industrial Force involved in the Sansad security are also vacant. Means the top post of these persons who are responsible for security arrangement in the parliament, so their posts are vacant. So the thing is, in their absence, are there any other persons? There are other persons also, but the thing is, like, it is not his primary responsibility. So now what the author says, that a security breach that has happened, this breach must lead to a sweeping changes. Okay, so these security breach must lead to sweeping changes. They require sweeping. Okay, they require sweeping changes. So we need huge number of changes also. What changes? We need changes in the security apparatus. We need, let's say, like, command authority, that, like, who will be responsible, who is responsible person to keep the security of the parliament intact. Here in this article, they have said that if they have to, let's say, like, have state of art infrastructure, in that case they need to get it passed by the Ministry of Home Affairs. Okay, so in this article they have discussed about spike barriers, bollards, drop gases with the latest technology, scanners, radio frequency identification, which is RFID devices, anti-explosive checks, and the additional manpower that form the layers of the security. So these are some of the important things that are needed. Okay, so the thing is, finally the author says that this incident that has happened, right, on 13th December. This is not the standalone incidents. A similar incident has happened, but that was a grave security breach, and there, let's say, the parliament was under attack. It was under attack. So if we talk about historically, let's say, like, you know, so if we talk about historically what has happened earlier, like there is a history also related to this. There is a history of security breach in the parliament. So in this article they have discussed similar incidents has happened in 2001 on the same day, 13th December 2001. Similar, I mean, like, terrorists have entered into the parliament. They have killed 9 personals in the parliament. 9 people have been killed, right, in 2001, and they include Delhi personals from Delhi police, parliament security personnel, and a gardener. So these people were killed in 2000. Let's say, like, you know, there was a terror attack in the parliament. Okay, there was a terror attack in the parliament, right? Terror attack in the parliament. So that terror attack has happened in the previous parliament building, but the thing is, since they have shifted the building, they should make it sure that not only the Lok Sabha but the Rajya Sabha also remains, let's say, like, you know, intact, right? It should remain intact from any kind of security breaches. It should have enough deterrence capacity. Then we have another article. It says India's defense budgeting and the point of deterrence. Now this article is, let's say, to the point and direct. I'll just discuss about it. Basically the author is Air Vice Marshal. Okay, he's a retired person, right? Air Vice Marshal. Basically he has raised 2 important issues. One important issue is that the government is now going into a election mode. Means next year there will be a general election in the country. Since general election is going to happen in the country, so the, let's say, like, you know, attention of the policy makers or of the politicians are towards winning the election, are towards, let's say, enticing the voters, right, and meeting the voters, going for their promotion and all. So the thing is, it's going to require resources, it's going to require their attention, it's going to, let's say, like, be a kind of let's say, game changer for the country. I mean, like, you know, so like, there can be change of power, there can be same power, but the thing is, it's an important activity that a democracy goes through. So author is saying, since, like, you know, attention is going towards there, but the thing is, what has happened, there seems to be a negligence towards, let's say, defense, right? What defense? Basically, like, to protect the country, we need to have our defense forces, we need to have the, let's say, state of the art technology with the defense forces, so that we can guard our borders, right, from any external attacks, and we can have a state of the art infrastructure within the country, so that, like, you know, we have the readiness to tackle any threat in future. So this talks about a deterrence posture. What do we mean by deterrence? Deterrence means you create your capacity so much that nobody else from outside should think of, right, let's say, attacking you, because your capacity, your strength is much higher. It is perceived much higher than they can think of attacking on you. Okay, this is the thing. So the thing is, here the author is saying that it is important that government of India should focus on upgrading the defense infrastructure in the country, right? Author has given some numbers related to squadrons. So in India, as of now, they have a very low strength of a squadron, which is 32. And the thing is, like, it will take another 10 years before it reaches 35 squadrons. So this is a very, very important thing, that, like, in India, the number of a squadron in Indian Air Force, basically he's talking on behalf of Air Force, is very less. So, like, you know, we need to upgrade the infrastructure of the Air Force, and also we need to buy, or we need to manufacture more, let's say, technological capacity for the Air Force, so that they can use it. And in this article, the author is pointing out to some of the, let's say, index. One of the indexes, Innovation Index of 2022, Global Innovation Index of 2022. So Global Innovation Index of 2022 says that India allocates about 0.7% of its GDP towards defense budget, which is very, very low. Second important thing is, if we talk about Global Innovation Index, right? If we talk about global, so the research and development expenditure, sorry, it is research and development expenditure, right, is 0.7% of the GDP, which places it 53rd globally. And China spends 421 billion in 2000, which is 2.54% of its GDP. So China spends much more than what India spends, right? In in its, let's say, defense related things, right? In defense research and development. So this is important in India, that we should allocate more funds towards research and development, so that our army, our air force, our navy, they are equipped with state of art, let's say, weapons. That's the thing. And here in this article, the author has also discussed about a scheme. Name of this scheme is known as Innovation for Defense Excellence Scheme. So under this scheme, the government of India strives to manufacture its own equipment, right? So we want to go for indigenization of Indian, let's say, Indian defense forces. We want to create our own, let's say, create our own technologies. That's the thing. So in this article, author says, to have India's defense budget and national security goals examined through the prism of electoral imperatives would be unprofessional. Means we should keep the defense apart, means like we should give a special focus to defense no matter whether we are conducting election in the country or not, because defense is one of the most important and strategic area for the country. Okay, so this is what is discussed in this article. It is important that you remember the name of those, the Global Innovation Index. India is placed at 53rd place location. Then it says CC again. So in the beginning of today's lecture, we discussed about the map of Egypt, right? We discussed that Egypt shares its border with Libya, it shares its border with, let's say, some other countries also. And we discussed about maritime border. It shares its maritime border with Mediterranean Sea, Red Sea, Gulf of Aqaba, Gulf of Suez, Suez Canal. We discussed about Sinai Peninsula and all. So basically, this article is about the polity of Egypt. Egypt is a country with which India has a good relation, but what is there inside Egypt? In Egypt, basically, recently there was a presidential election, right? And in that presidential election, the present president, let's say, won, and he is going to be in power till 2030. But now let us understand about Egypt, what has happened in the past. So in the past, this person who is president now, in the past, this person was a military leader, and he has conducted a military coup, means like using military forcefully, they have toppled the, let's say, previous government, right? And they came to power. After, let's say, toppling the previous government, they came to power, and since then he is in power. And it has been the history of Egypt that whosoever is in power, he tends to remain in power. But before the previous government, there was a kind of, let's say, caliphate, a ruler, a king used to rule on Egypt. But people have seen him to be a dictator. So that's why people have, let's say, overthrown him. They have elected a leader, and that leader was ruling in Egypt. But that leader was toppled by this person. His name is Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. What? His name is Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, and he is presidential, let's say, he is Egypt's president, and he captured power in 2013 through a military coup. And now he has again, let's say, won the election. Now he will be there in the country. So now it is saying that, he is being seen as a very strong leader who has the authority or who has the power to, let's say, curb any dissent. So the thing is, effectively what he has done, long back there were kings who were ruling, but under his control, under his government, right, similar structure is there, okay, a kind of dictatorial regime. This is what is being discussed in this article, okay, this is the thing. Then a short article here, we discussed this article earlier also, right? It says climate action needs an updated lexicon. Updated lexicon means updated dictionary. Climate action needs an updated dictionary. Why? Because author has given some examples related to Chennai, okay. Basically in this article, author has talked about Chennai. So we discussed about Chennai in our previous discussion also, right? In our previous discussion, we discussed about Chennai, right? So this is where Chennai is located. In Chennai, there was a cyclone that has hit in Chennai there, because of huge rainfall, right? The Chennai city got flooded, right? So it got flooded. So the thing is, this is a urban problem that happened in Chennai. So the thing is, how do we tackle the urban problem? So author here says that we need a changed dictionary. We need an updated lexicon. Why? Because we need to understand about the recent happenings that are leading to these kind of climate disasters. The kind of Chennai goes through climate vulnerability. Why? Because already 3 rivers pass through this city, right? And people have constructed their buildings, let's say, in the river basins. They have encroached upon, let's say, natural areas. Since encroachment happened, whenever, let's say, like, there are heavy rains, the thing is, where will be the water go? It cannot percolate into the concreted, let's say, like, buildings. This is the thing. And so naturally it will go to rivers, and rivers will outflow, and it will lead to flood kind of situation. Recently that has happened in Chennai, and let's say many people were displaced, and there was a cyclone also that affected Chennai. It is known as cyclone Mishong. Okay, it affected Chennai in December 5. Okay, on December 5. So author says that now there is a need that, like, we need to understand newer terms, newer ways of dealing with this thing. So author says that there is a need to move away from the constraints of collective memory and community knowledge to enable a better official response for future challenges. Okay, so there should be a kind of official response, right? The government should do something for future challenges. Then this is the last article that we are going to discuss today. It says disinflation may pave the way for interest rate cut. Okay, so we need to understand disinflation, right? Here there is a term, economic term, which is disinflation. Let's like, go to this thing. This is another topic. This is, let's say, like, name of the topic is, this is the last article. It is from Indian economy section. So we are going to discuss this topic in detail, and we are going to understand about what do we mean by disinflation. Okay, it says disinflation may pave the way, right? Disinflation may pave the way for interest rate cut, for interest rate cut. It was said by the RBI officials. Now let us quickly understand what do we mean by disinflation, right? What do we mean by disinflation? So basically disinflation is an economic term. To understand this, you need to understand its counterpart, which is inflation, right? You need to understand about a counterpart, which is inflation. What is inflation? Inflation means, inflation, if we talk about its definition of inflation, it means general increase in price, right? General increase in price of goods and services in an economy over a period of time. Okay, this is inflation. So when we talk about inflation, inflation is generally accounted. We generally term inflation, let's say, like, we give some accounting that inflation is raising at the rate of 7% of GDP, 4% of GDP. So, like, in India, the government of India has some kind of inflation targeting measures also. What we have? We have inflation targeting measures. What are the inflation targeting measures? Basically, it is done by both the things. It is done by, let's say, on one side it is done by RBI. RBI has a monetary policy committee. Okay, it is known as monetary policy committee. It comes up with, right? It comes with monetary policy decisions. For example, reducing the repo rate or increasing the repo rate, or reducing the reverse repo rate, cash reserve ratio. Many tools are there with the Reserve Bank of India. So basically, Reserve Bank of India tries to control the inflation in an economy. Apart from this, the government of India has this FRBM Act, which is known as Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act. Under this, inflation targeting has been given to be 4 plus minus 2%, means the minimum level of inflation should be 2%, maximum should be 6%. This is the thing. So this is inflation. So when the purchasing power of currency goes down, for example, today you are purchasing something, let's say you are purchasing this box, right? You are purchasing it today and you are paying, let's say, rupees 100 to purchase this. In the same box, if you want to purchase after 6 months or after a year, right? 1 year later, if you purchase this, maybe you have to pay rupees 110. What happened? Inflation has happened. Basically, like its value has value of the good has gone up, but the purchasing power of the currency has gone down. That is known as inflation. So inflation rises over a period of time. Let's say, let's consider in 2022 the inflation was 8% of the economy. But if in 2023 the inflation goes, let's say, 7% of the economy, so what is happening? The inflation is there, but the rate of inflation has not gone up, it has gone down. That is known as disinflation. Okay, that is known as disinflation. So it is when the rate of inflation goes down, right? Rate of inflation goes down over a period of time. Over a period of time. That is known as what? Disinflation. That is known as disinflation. In general terms, right? If you want to get the accurate definition of it, go back to your basic book of economy, you will get to know. Okay, so it says disinflation may pave the way for interest rate cut. Means like if disinflation happens, so the RBI may reduce the interest rate. Interest rate means it can reduce the repo rate. What is repo rate? Repo rate is the rate of interest at which the Reserve Bank of India lends money to the scheduled commercial banks in India, right? That is reverse repo rate. Reverse repo rate is opposite of it. When the Reserve Bank of India borrows money from the banks in the country, so like the Reserve Bank of India pays some interest to the banks, that is known as reverse repo rate. All right. So this is the thing. So this article is good. You need to understand about these terminologies. You need to understand how one thing is connected with other to learn more about it. There are many things that can be discussed in this area, but since we have limited time to discuss about the articles in newspapers, so I'll be limiting my discussion, let's say details. So that will be all from my side for the day. Thank you so much everyone for attending today's session. I hope you have a good day ahead. Thank you.